Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to today's RISMedia broker webinar. It's going to be a great best practice series today. I'm excited about the guests we have, and I'm excited about really helping you understand how to get the best agent tech adoption for whatever your technology initiative is. We have phenomenal guests, phenomenal content, and I promise you that you're going to want to buckle up and pay attention, very close attention to what these awesome gentlemen have to say about getting adoption. My name is VERL Workman. I'm the founder and CEO of Workman Success Systems, located out of Salt Lake City, Utah. We coach and train elite teams all over North America, helping really implement the best systems and practices so that you can become successful as a real estate business owner instead of just as a real estate agent. And we're excited to be asked by RISMedia to host these calls. I want to also encourage everybody to stay tuned until the very end of the webinar, where we're going to give you a link where you can download some free gifts that have been offered by our guests today. So stay on to the very end. I'll give you a link, and I'll share with you how you can not only download the copy of the notes from today's presentation, but a couple of other really cool gifts at the end. Okay, a couple of things. During the webinar, let me just give you a little bit of housekeeping. During the webinar itself, I want to remind you that you can interact with other attendees on Twitter using the hashtag @RISWebinar. So hashtag @RISWebinar, and we're going to get the ability to interact with other people that are listening on the call. You can also use your questions, the questions button on your tool panel on the toolbar for GoToWebinar if you have questions for any of our panelists that are with us today. And I'll be monitoring, and there will be a couple of times during the call where I'll just pause and take a second and ask specific questions that are coming from the listeners. So that gives you the ability to really think about what it is you want to adapt or adopt from a technology perspective, and I'll ask those questions directly to our panelists. So let me first welcome and introduce Chris Trick. Chris is the Chief Marketing Officer for ERA Franchise Systems. Now, Chris oversees all the marketing and business development initiatives. He's responsible for all their advertising, marketing, product development for the brand on a global scale. He's got an enormous amount of experience in adoption. He's a solution seeker with a proven track record of building marketing programs that enhance brands from the inside out. He's focused on meeting the organization's growth goals, whatever they might be. Previously, he's got and I thought this was really interesting with Chris, but he comes from the I guess you call it the hospitality industry and hotels. He's previously the Vice President of Marketing for Marriott Executive Stay. He has a long tenure in the hotel industry and possesses a deep knowledge of franchising and the franchising business model. Prior to working for Marriott, Chris held a variety of positions with other hotel chains and just is an absolute expert in getting adoption and helping companies grow. Chris, welcome to the call. I'm glad you're here today.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you, everyone.
And we're going to get right back to you in just a minute. I also want to introduce our next guest. Our next guest is Jake Lyman, who's the Chief Product Operations Officer for ZipRealty. Jake has served in a variety of roles since the beginning of his journey with ZipRealty in '99. His current role is the Chief Product Operations Officer. Now, I love that title, Chief Product Operations Officer. It's very specific. Lyman facilitates the successful delivery of every Zap into Realogy brand affiliates and spearheads the efforts to engage Zap's users and stakeholders through marketing, customer successes, support, business development, and so forth. Lyman is ZipRealty's longest tenured employee. He's been there forever, and he's worked with almost every department except engineering. He likes to point that out. He's not an engineer since joining the company in 1999. Jake, we're excited to have you here. I got a son, Jake. He's my soccer player. Thanks for joining us. We'll have a lot of fun as we kind of talk about what Zap is doing and what the integration has looked like.
Great. Thanks, Verl. Looking forward to it.
And last but not least, we've got the feet on the street, and that's Wayne Weaver. Wayne is a seasoned, high-performing sales associate with ERA, Teal. He's also VP Real Estate in, you say that, Chautauqua, New York. That's right. He spent the better part of 20, did I do it okay, Chautauqua?
You got it.
I think I've spoken there. Is there a casino there?
There is one close to there, yeah.
That's awesome. Well, Wayne, we're excited you're here. Wayne spent the better part of his career at least the last couple of years, traveling across the country, helping ERA brokers and sales associates leverage the ERA ZAP platform. So when we talk about the integration of technology and getting agent adoption, Wayne's insights are going to be very, very helpful as we talk about how we've actually gotten people and getting to such a high level of adoption. As we talk about technology adoption, so Wayne, by the way, before I move on, let me just say welcome, glad you're here.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
So as we get into adoption of technology, as we were kind of discussing broker needs and where the brokers feel like they have a greatest amount of area of concern, I like to call it the rock in the shoe. And one of the things is that, you know, brokers and owners and brands spend an enormous amount of company financial resources and human resources bringing on new technology and new systems. And when we discuss with these brokers and owners what their biggest challenge is, oftentimes they say is we provide the tools, but the agents don't actually adopt and they don't use the tools. And so we went out, we searched for companies that are having successful adoption of specific technology and have had a really high success rate. So it's actually integrated into how they're using it. We want to share some of those best practices. So we're going to use ERA's implementation of ZipRealty's ZAP platform as a case study on how to promote agent tech adoption. And that's going to be the focus of our call today. I'll tell you, it comes from when rolling out a new technology, we know that change is a process, and it's critical to understand how people adopt new behaviors or ideas. And it sounds to me like ERA was well aware of that when they began implementing this new technology into the whole network across, you know, all of their different offices. And in our conversations leading up to this call, it sounds like your approach was based on 3 specific things. And the 3 things are insights and opportunities, and this is really interesting as we did our pre-webinar call, solutions, and then agent adoptions. And so, Chris, I'd like to ask you, if you wouldn't mind, to kind of explain the insights that informed this technology implementation. What is it that you were facing? What are the big challenges in rolling out this company-wide new tech product, and how did you get agents to actually buy in?
Great, thanks so much, VERL. You know, I can tell you that at the very highest level, our biggest challenge was really around changing agent behaviors and changing their thought process. What we were doing was not so much as introducing a new technology, but introducing a new way of doing business for them. So we knew that this was critical in order to be relevant in today's, you know, ever-evolving landscape in real estate and even beyond real estate. You know, central to our approach of insights was that, you know, we believe that agent adoption begins with the understanding of this connected consumer. And we needed to impress upon our agents that in order to serve this generation of connected consumers required change on their part. So it was as much about changing behaviors and changing the thought process, changing the way they did business, as it was initially going in with a new tool. Consider this, you know, the average age of a realtor these days is around 57 years old, and the average age of a first-time home buyer is about 33. So there's a bit of a disconnect in the industry in terms of consumer expectations, behaviors, and their use of technology and digital media platforms. So the very first thing we needed to do was to bring our agents into alignment with changing consumer expectations, and then to impress upon them that our new technology platform, the ZAP platform, was the solution that would enable them to drive results. So, you know, again, as you know, digital platforms and social networks have really changed the relationship between brands and consumers. And for brokers and agents, we saw a number of trends that were really starting to shape that relationship. And I want to go over 5 key trends that set the stage for the solution for ZAP. And by providing this context early on to our agents and our brokers, it really helped them understand the business imperative that made this change necessary, and it really served as the foundation to facilitate adoption. Now, the first of these trends we'll call hybrid service. And this is a blending of the online and the offline experience. Now, this is a trend that's been in travel for a while, and as you know, I came from the hospitality industry, And it's really starting to take over everyday activities, from errands to cooking, shopping, even package delivery. The companies who have gotten this right are the ones that are most familiar, include Uber and Airbnb. And these are the types of services where your cell phone has now become the remote control for your life. And what we're finding is that in real estate, we see consumers start their process online and then finish offline with an agent. And we'll share more on that a little bit later. The next trend is really... Yep.
I was just going to say, Chris, I think you're so right in the way the consumers are behaving today, and that everything is starting online. It's funny because I sit in a meeting with my millennials, and they don't even, you ask a question, if they don't know the answer to it, they don't take a note, they Google it while they're sitting there, come up with the solution, and they've already got it, and they move to the next thing. It's so different than the way we were brought up and how we thought.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. The next trend that we looked at that really impacts agent adoption of technology is personalization. Now, this is a trend that spans everything that this generation of connected consumers experiences. Think about Netflix as an example. There's simply no more appointment programming. You watch what you want, when you want, and the more you watch, the more personalized the service becomes. In fact, today I think 80% or more people of what they watch has been recommended to them by Netflix based on their personal experience. And then again, thinking about social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, and the like. The platforms are the same, but no two consumer experiences are the same. So really the power of the product and the power of the platform is in the personalization. And what we see in real estate is that personalization yields higher conversion rates. And this is something that we really needed to impress upon our brokers and our agents that help drive adoption. We needed to explain to them when a buyer personalizes their search experience based on their specific preferences, they're twice as likely to request a showing within the first month. So that is a really key insight that we had to share to enable us to drive adoption.
That little piece of information is huge.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. It all starts with understanding of why they're doing it, not necessarily understanding of the product itself. The next trend, and there's really only 5 that really informed our solution, informed the development of Zap, is around transparency. Now, this is about consumers going online and using ratings and reviews to gain the insight of the rest of the world about their experiences. Again, think about best-in-class companies like Amazon, with over 100 million product reviews, a company like Yelp or TripAdvisor with over 200 million reviews. Now, these are the types of companies that people are using each and every day that are starting to change consumers' mindsets in terms of expectations. And in real estate, what we're seeing is that the presence of reviews on a site can increase conversion rates by up to 20%. Because I think we all know and understand that in real estate, transparency creates trust. Now, understanding this was also key to driving adoption of one of the key components of the Zap platform. Now, the fourth trend we talked a little bit about already, and that's, we'll call it the social graph. And, thinking about social media, it's about how people connect, how they create communities, and how they share information. Connecting their spheres of influence, their friends, their careers, their ideas and interests. And that's how consumers really expect to interact. And as you know, engagement across social platforms is just astounding. Consumer engagement is just growing exponentially each and every month. In real estate, the opportunity that we had to impress upon our agents is to better connect them to their customers, to their neighborhoods, and directly to the properties that they've shown or that they've sold, and connect them to their communities. Connect them in a way that's really, really visible and that a consumer can interact with. Now, we did this within the platform as a key to driving adoption of the technology and of the solution.
It's like building. I can't wait to see it.
Well, I'll tell you the 5th trend, and this should be no surprise to anyone on the line, is really about the journey, and it's specific to real estate. As you know, the real estate journey has changed just dramatically over the last several years. It's gone from the back seat in a book to one that now begins online. And And we understand that today's consumers are more informed than ever. We understand that the average consumer, the buyer, will visit over 70 or more properties online before ever requesting to visit one in person. And while consumers are more informed than ever, we also know that the role of the realtor is more important than ever. So, thinking about some of these high-level trends and our ability to reach this generation of connected consumers, it's hard work, but it's a major opportunity for those brokers and those agents who truly understand them and are able to leverage technology to connect in more effective, more personalized, and more transparent ways. So at the very outset, one of the keys to adoption at the highest level was this kind of explanation and understanding. We had to impress upon them that to change behaviors and change their way of doing business was really to facilitate their alignment with these changing consumer expectations. So at the end of the day, they could answer the question, well, what's in this for me? Why would I make this change?
So I think that question is huge, and being able to answer that question is where your technology partner comes in. Jake, do you mind taking a minute and just kind of expanding on providing the context and the motivation of how we move them from, the journey to what's next and actually conversion?
Sure. Great. Thanks, VERL. Chris did a great job describing the changes in a broad consumer behavior. Let me take a little bit of a deeper dive as we look into building the product and, what we've kind of taken into account. The first thing that, we really looked at is that consumers themselves are really changing, and our product is really consumer focused. And we're always looking at how and what the consumer is doing online. First, they're always connected, and you have to understand that the average household has at least 5 connected devices. Some have up to 15 connected devices. So as you're looking to build products and engage the consumer, you want to make sure you're understanding how they're using all of those connected devices. They're consuming that data every hour of the day, anytime, and often on multiple devices simultaneously. They may be flipping around their TV, on Netflix, as well as on their phone at the same time. They're also mobile, and I think that's really important. They're working across multiple devices, and mobile being one of the biggest. 79% will leave a site that's not mobile optimized. So as you're looking to build technology, making sure that you're addressing that demand for mobile, is really, really important. They're informed. They love to have the information at their fingertips. And they expect to be able to do research anywhere on anything. 81% of research, 81% do research online before making a big purchase. And I think that that's really important. That's really, if you take a look at, some of the big players on even smaller purchases, researching online is huge. Reference back to Chris's 100 million reviews on Amazon. Reviews become a huge driver of that and being able to do that research. And the bigger the purchase, the more time they're going to spend on research. Great example of that is your average bride spends 10 hours a week online planning before her wedding for inspiration. And consumers spend 7 months researching homes on mobile and web before actually visiting a home. And I think that that's a really key point, Merle, that we'll come back to, is that consumers and the way that they shop online for real estate has really dramatically shifted in the last 10 to 15 years. And we as an industry have been a little bit slow to adopt to that. And we're really trying to build products that allow and enable consumers to do that. They also, as Chris referenced, expect that their online activity will segue effortlessly into getting the service they need. And so they want to be able to work on the technology and when they're ready, transition easily over to having the service of a real estate professional. So the technology becomes not only a research tool, but also enables that, that connection when the consumer is ready to do that. 60% of consumers online expect that and will leave services that are not synced with the technology and will move on to something else that is synced. They expect, as Chris touched on, that personalization, so making sure that they go in and can create an instance around their real estate search that they can revisit through multiple devices becomes really important. And that instant gratification, being able to get access to that data online is really important. And one of the most obvious examples of that is 10, 15 years ago, to see listings, you had to walk into a real estate office and sit down with the listing book or at a terminal connected to the MLS to see that information. And now you can see that anytime you want on any device you want across multiple different platforms. So creating that experience is really, really important.
You know, I have to agree with you that I see so much. I've got a wedding coming up in my own household, and I think the 10 hours spent researching wedding stuff is a way underestimate. I think the kids, they spend so much time, and they're so educated when they make decisions today. And the home buyer, we're finding, is the same thing. How's that changed our buying process?
Yeah, so the buying process has really changed in conjunction with that, VERL. And if we take a look at this slide here, what you really see is that you can break up the process into kind of this pre-research online search, which really is empowered by this online technology, putting the power in the consumer's hands to allow them to do the search and start looking for those properties. And all the great tools you can create online really engage them. But there's a part in the process, and as the consumer gets more serious, where the need for a real estate professional becomes imminent. We found that our research shows that they're spending about 7 months kind of researching. You know, they don't have to be serious as they did 10, 15 years ago to actually make that first step into a real estate office. They can simply pop open a website or a native app on their phone and decide to start that search process. So it's really important that you can see that this transition from the online experience to a real estate professional actually helping them is a really, really important part of that process, and that handoff speaks directly to what Chris referenced as that hybrid service.
What's fascinating to me as you're going through this, and I'm just sitting here listening, is how much research goes into being prepared before you actually take something out and roll it out with the agent. You're actually understanding the consumer, what everybody's role is in the process, and then we get into building the tools.
That's right. Yeah, you really want, you want to give them the ability to do that, but you also want to facilitate that transition when they're ready to actually take that step to having service. You want to facilitate that. There's lots of great companies out there. Chris referenced several, but if you look at Airbnb, for example, for researching where you want to stay, and then that handoff to the actual property. Uber is a great example. Blue Apron for ordering meals. There is a lot of really great services out there that are facilitating that, and I think that in the real estate space, it really lends itself to that same kind of hybrid service. There's so much that you can provide consumers online to facilitate their search, or if they're looking to sell their home, it applies as well. Pricing their property and understand what's going on in their neighborhood. And the buy and selling often go hand in hand. Most sellers are going to be buyers eventually as well, and so putting those two together, it can really be, you can empower that and really drive that that experience through technology, tightly bound with a great consumer experience delivered by a real estate professional. So with all of that, the focus on technology is really, really increasing. And so, we look at in creating not only consumer engagement tools that really drive the consumer that we've been speaking about, but you also want to create tools on the back end for sales associates and realtors to be able to manage that business and manage that experience when consumers are handed off to them. So for consumers, you want to make sure that you're hitting them on every device, and through the ZAP product, which is a fully integrated suite of products for consumers and agents, we're able to build that tight connection between engagement and research tools for consumers up front and the tools for agents to take that handoff when a consumer is really ready to become a client and work with either buying or selling their property with that real estate professional. And so you want to make sure you're hitting them on mobile, the consumer's mobile, but you also want to make sure for the sales associates on the back end, you're providing those same sorts of tools, giving them plenty of opportunities through lead generation, but also a really robust set of business tools in CRM through desktop and mobile that they're able to service those leads. So you can imagine if that 7 months is an average, you're going to have a much larger pool of consumers and clients that you're going to be working with that are all at different stages of the process. And having a tool that allows you to identify and really understand where those different consumers are in the process, you're providing the right level of service at the right time, is key to really operating within this environment. And without that tools, it's really hard to get an agent, realtor to engage with any system that would allow them to do that.
So just, this is a curiosity question as you're taking me through this process of understanding the consumer experience and what we want and what their behavior is and how to get the agent to engage. You said something a minute ago that kind of sticks out in my mind, and that is that if it's not mobile, if they go to the site and it's not mobile, that the majority of them go away. But I think most people build their sites first, and then they try and optimize it for mobile. Is that how your platform works, or are you creating mobile and then making it online?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's actually a really large trend in Silicon Valley and in the really prominent technology companies that are developing, consumer and business-related applications. Is that this concept of driving mobile first, and that's really, they're driving that forward, but it's really in response to how everyone is using technology right now. It is so much easier to engage them in the device they have sitting in their pocket than expecting them to stop what they're doing and turning to, a desktop or opening up a laptop. So driving that engagement mobile first is really important. And there's some interesting kind of strategies that come out of that. First, you're operating on a much smaller screen, and so you tend to build really simple, concise processes when you design mobile first that really translate well to build a good experience on desktop as well. Given all the geography you have on a desktop, we tend to overdevelop sometimes and create too complicated of a system to really engage end users. And simplicity is really what you need to drive to get them engaged. And so driving forward that mobile first design as your philosophy can really be advantageous through all of the different channels that you're developing to.
I don't know about everybody else on the call, but my whole thought process is going back and checking what my stuff looks like in a mobile environment first, instead of looking at it on the desktop or on the big monitor on my desk, because that's usually where people's first experience is. And I had never thought of it until we started talking about this process, and I just think it's a really important point from a design perspective of how we're thinking about the future and how we're building our products to get the right level of adoption. So I appreciate your insights on that.
Yeah, and if we look at what you can do through those different technologies, it's also really driving that consumer-agent relationship. And so it is vital to driving adoption, to have agents to demonstrate the increased efficiency and effectiveness in managing and maximizing the consumer-agent relationship. So at every point that you are able to create that interaction between the two, it is really important. And as consumers visit, save, and view the properties that they want, informing and letting the agent know that there is that additional information, and then their ability to respond and make recommendations and really share what they're doing is really important. I mean, you've got to, if you understand that a real estate agent is most effective when they're out in the field, how can you capitalize on that? And driving through mobile becomes great, and how during the normal work flow of their day can you provide them opportunities to take all of that great knowledge and experience that they have as a real estate professional and turn that into information and services that are really beneficial to the client. And so having a technology that helps that consumer-agent relationship is really central.
I think as a real estate agent, we spend so much time trying to create engagement and follow-ups and ongoing campaigns so that the client stays engaged with us, and it really is a waste of time. Where we make our money is out there, showing houses and writing contracts.
That's, VERL, that's absolutely right. And you think about the size of a real estate purchase. There's definitely opportunities that will influence, when a consumer is ready. But it's not like trying, to sell and convince somebody, to buy a new TV or to buy a new phone. You can try and drive the timeline on that pretty heavily. But the consumer pretty well knows what their timeline is going to be around financing and selling another property. So it's really more about understanding and when the consumer is in the point in the process where, as a real estate professional, you can provide the maximum benefit and service to them, and really build on that relationship. So that really deep understanding of what the consumer is doing is really important. And as that relates to technology, having a product that gives you that deep insight into what the consumer is doing, and then presenting that up into a format to the real estate professional that they're able to easily digest that and have really simple, concise action items off of that lead to true success in building relationships is, helps with the adoption immensely.
It totally does. The other thing that we've seen in today's new consumer is they like to be part of groups. They like to interact. They like to have a forum. Tell me how you've addressed that.
Yeah. So, ZipRealty started out as a real estate brokerage before we became part of the ERA family. And, we, being in the brokerage business, very early on found that having a really tight relationship and understanding of what our agents, our users are going through and what our consumers are going through their search leads to much better products that we can build. And so on the agent and real estate professional side, we've really driven home this idea of listening and understanding their feedback on the product, the problems they have and they're trying to solve in the space, and how we can best address those. One of the main tools we have for that, because that conversation not only extends to us, but it extends throughout the entire user community that we have on our platform, is we've implemented and rolled in a community where they can speak to each other, they can speak to the experts here, they can provide advice, they can bring suggestions about the product, they can surface up problems and issues that we need to address, all in the sense of building this community spirit where we're all here together to kind of advance this product so that we can all, as ERA, can be stronger real estate professionals and better at servicing our clients. So core to us is this community we've built that's part of our product, where we surface on a daily basis through newsfeed on their dashboard the most relevant content, and really try and drive home that, look, there's more here than just the CRM. Actually logging in and being on this platform connects you to all the other users of this platform, and with that comes this huge pool of information that you now have access to, and experts in fields well beyond the product, but in the real estate field that you may want to access.
So that's an enormous amount of information about understanding consumer behavior, building a product that works for the consumer, giving the agents the tools to be able to use it. You could have the best tools in the world, but if the agents won't use them, my question is, how good are they? And so that's when we, you guys brought in Wayne and said, okay, we got to get the word out to the agents. We got to start getting adoption. Wayne, I understand that you spent a lot of time, belly to belly with ERA agents in a training capacity. Talk to me about what that looks like and how you've gotten agents to be able to change behavior and utilize the tools.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun for me, as an agent, being able to, help other agents and make their lives easier, which is what ERA and Zip and Zap have led to. But I think it's important to really reiterate what Chris touched on earlier about changing behaviors. That we know that requires a new way of thinking, a new way of doing business. We can't just say, hey, it's great, and everyone says, oh, okay. We gotta work with them and get there, get them to change. So just working face to face with the agents, we focused on a set of key steps, sort of in our implementation process, because we knew that it wasn't just hey, we say it's good and everyone believes us. We knew the key steps were just critical to successful adoption, down from the top all the way down to the agent level. So our first key adoption was system integration. We knew that it had to work with existing platforms. In my opinion, one thing we didn't want was to add another to-do to our agents' busy schedules. So, the Zap integration with existing platforms was crucial. So that was number one that we needed to, just make it easier for them. And then is getting a little bit more hands-on with the actual implementation. We went and we started choosing specialists at each office. So each broker would have their own specialist and could be sort of the point person at that office. sort of had access to us at ERA, was an influencer in the office, so the agents had a direct connection in their office, and sort of be their go-to person. So we thought that was important, and sure enough, almost a year into live trainings and follow-up, we are seeing that specialist be extremely important with the implementation. So that's definitely a plus.
So you talked about existing platforms. Give me an idea of what you mean by that. What's an example of an existing platform you had to do integration into?
Well, just one of our main ones was we have a lead router system that sort of filters leads from partnering sites, and we used to have to go through a process using that system, and now it was implemented in, just integrated right into Zap, and it makes my life as an agent so much easier. That's just one of the avenues, but it's big. It doesn't seem like much, but when I can go to one less place during my busy day, I love it. So.
No, I totally agree. So when I do, and I'm getting some weird feedback on the microphone, and so I don't know if it's a headset or whatever. We need to try and stop the moving because it makes it hard to hear. So one of the things I do when I speak, Wayne, and you probably recognize this, is I always find someone in the room who I believe is an influencer, and I'll meet them before the event starts, and I'll talk to them about their business, and I'll kind of create raving fans, and I seed the audience. Tell me how you've used that strategy as part of your implementation strategy.
Well, so just as an example, I'm actually at an office today doing sort of a follow-up. And you better believe I picked out, I knew ahead of time 3 or 4 agents that had positive experiences and using it daily, and that's exactly what I wanted, and they clearly helped me, as does the Zap specialist that we picked out. We knew that person, would be on board, and you better believe we used those guys, to help pull everybody else in and show the positives, and everyone else gets excited about it. So.
Yeah, I think that's brilliant. Talk to me about some of the training that you do and what's included in the training.
Yeah, we do, so we started with our first round were live launches. So we went face-to-face, feet on the ground, with our brokers and agents, office by office. We felt it's very important, to get the adoption. Was not to, we made it exciting. We had plenty of hype coming up to it, but if we'd have launched it with some slides, we just didn't think that would, do the job. So we went live, office to office. So we created a nice little PowerPoint, but it didn't take us long to learn that the PowerPoint's great, but we want to get live. So we went. We would do a PowerPoint just so, show the positives, and then actually go live with the agents and get them going on it and have them, do the actual setup to get them going. And man, they love it when they can just not sit there and take notes, when they can, when they can do it right while someone's there to help them. We found that that's a huge success tool. So.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. I think the fact that you're not afraid to get your technology out and put it in their hands and say use it during training makes a big difference on the adoption.
Yeah, absolutely. And then it didn't take us long to put out there that, hey, this can be a better product if you tell us what you want to, what do you want it to do? Why doesn't it do this? Gee, could it do this? And in the year since we've launched the product with the awesome folks with Jake, working with Jake, it's just a phenomenal. Just every day something gets better on it, and you can just see. Now I'm coming back out to these offices, and they're already excited, and then I get to tell them, hey, look what else this does, and they're just that much more excited. So that's fun, and then just kind of going back to the training piece. Obviously going live, being in offices was a huge plus, but we also created, like a couple plans. We created a 21-day plan for the agents to sort of start breaking their habits and having daily positive habits, especially with Zap. So we had a 21-day plan, figuring that, if they logged in and did something every day for 21 days, then they're on their way. And we actually created a 30, 60, 90-day plan for the brokers. So, and that involved, hey, you can do this, this, and this, and push the agents along the way and keep them engaged. And we're finding some success with that as well. And it's all leading to, creating those positive habits and showing them that there is a better way to do things, easier way to do things. And this is not another to-do. This should be the to-do, and it's made to make your life easier. So, and as an agent, I can say that it does. So that's always a plus.
I think that's awesome. Key messages on this last slide, Wayne.
Yeah, we like Jake had mentioned, we have a huge community support and knowledge base that are, keeping folks engaged. And then it really comes down to we've gone, we're back out there with the folks. We're coming back around for a second visit, keeping them engaged with a program we call Zap Squad. We have live learning events, and then just the fact that throughout the implementation process, we focused on just a key messages, which I think Chris had mentioned, that starts with the question, what's in it for me? And we're finding the agents, when we ask them and show them what's in it for them, that they're buying in. So we're excited about that.
Yeah, that's a great question that Chris brought up. And Chris, I'm going to jump back to you, because a project like this is no small undertaking. It had to be a massive commitment from ERA that you rolled out, a new technology system to the entire network. My first question is, how long was your rollout strategy? How long did it take you? And what are some of the key results that you had as a result of as a result of this rollout?
Thanks, VERL. It's a good question. We actually started the implementation process last July. So we've been in, roughly 10 months at this point. I would tell you that implementation is kind of an ongoing process for us, because the product itself continues to evolve. In fact, since we launched the product, we've introduced about 90 new features and product enhancements. So it's a continuous process. But where we are today in terms of agent engagement, what you see on the slide there is kind of your typical tech adoption curve, if you will. And we're approaching about 50% agent adoption. We're near that we've gone past the early adopters. We're now in the early majority. And these are agents utilizing the platform. But really more telling and more important is that the agents who are on the platform are starting to benefit from the power of the technology by utilizing the CRM. Wayne talked about getting them to do one or two things and getting them to engage in certain ways within the platform. They're starting to do that now by adding in their clients and their contacts, and by utilizing the email platform that's baked into the CRM within the platform. So we're starting to see more agents come on board, and then of those, more of those people starting to dive deeper into the platform and start to use it. But really, what we're also tracking is that overall platform performance, and we're seeing that as agent engagement continues to grow, we're also seeing increased consumer traffic and consumer engagement with the sites. And as an example, just over the last several months, we've seen over 300,000 client sessions. These are people who are going to the site, logging on with their personalized experiences that we talked about earlier. We see our clients sending emails, our agents sending more and more emails, over 100,000 emails in the last couple of months. And really back to customer engagement, we've seen nearly 100,000 saved homes and saved searches by our customers. So as agents get deeper, we're also finding that prospective buyers and sellers get deeper in the platform as well.
So I think it's interesting that we talk about agent adoption, and I got to tell you that I've rolled out a lot of products to different companies and brands over the years, and to get 50% of your agents doing anything is a huge milestone. And congratulations to you and your team. That's really significant.
Thank you, VERL.
The other thing is,
as I mentioned, it's been an ongoing process, and we'll continue to focus on engagement.
Yeah, I'm just curious. Would you mind laying out for us some of your keys to success? Like kind of take me through a process.
Well, we thought about it from our call, and really there's a lot, but at the highest level, there are kind of 5 key things, keys to success. Number 1, the importance of planning and preparation, and then just progress. You know you're going to get derailed and go off course from time to time, but you have to kind of keep moving forward, staying flexible, and that importance of establishing a project plan. Really important for us, for the ERA brand and for the team at Zip, was that we made a commitment to go all in. This was not a marketing initiative or a technology initiative or an operations initiative. This was an all-in initiative. We applied an integrated team approach to this. And just like sports, we kept score. And we kept score visibly. We wanted every single one of our associates on the brand team and the Zip team and everybody who had a piece in this to understand where we were in the process with implementing the platform at each of our brokerages, and then also specific to agent engagement, we kept score. Jake talked about the importance of agile development. There's also this piece around agile execution, and what's so critical is including customers in the process. And that feedback loop really helps drive adoption, because the product and the platform is built based on customer feedback. And we did that in many different ways, including live learning events. The next
are you saying that, hey Chris, as you move on from that, are you saying that we don't naturally just know what the consumer thinks because we're realtors?
Well, when I talk about the customer here, I'm talking about our agents.
Oh yeah, your agents.
Yeah, in this case, I'm talking about our brokers and our agents. So think about the user experience. When you think about driving adoption, it's going to be the agents and the brokers who are going to use the technology. So their feedback was so critical, both to the development of the product and all those feature releases and enhancements we spoke about, but also in terms of their adoption and their usage. It had to work to serve their needs, and it had to work to better connect them to their buyers and sellers.
So you weren't just telling them what they needed, you were asking them, showing them and asking them, getting feedback, and then making adjustments. That's huge.
Absolutely. You know, Jake earlier talked about the community, and that was a great way that we did some active listening, and we could hear what the community was talking about and where their needs were. The other key thing is the importance of communication and learning and further communication. It's this cycle where we're able to use that user feedback to communicate, to develop, to learn, to communicate, to develop, to learn. It is a constant feedback loop that helps develop the product and drive engagement. And then the last thing is what Wayne was talking about. It's really around driving engagement. As I mentioned, we know that agent engagement drives client engagement, which drives overall performance. And it is not a set it and forget it. It's not the chicken rotisserie where you set it one time and forget it. This is an ongoing process. Wayne is in an office today where he's revisiting a brokerage and working again with their agents. So we have to impress upon people the importance of getting back out there, staying face-to-face, staying belly-to-belly, and we do that through a number of different ways, one-on-one follow-ups and a number of live learning events as well. But at the very highest level, those are really our 5 kind of keys to success. But I'll tell you this, it starts with a commitment to going all in.
And I think that's where a lot of people fail. I've had conversations with companies that they want to have the concept of a solution, but they don't want to have the financial human resource commitment to go all in to actually make it happen. And so they put a Band-Aid on it, and it doesn't really solve a problem or create a real solution for their agents, who are their clients in this case.
Yep, it's a very good point.
So, Chris, thank you very much, and I appreciate your insight. And I don't know if everybody realizes the power of the slide that's in front of you. And the slide is a kind of a roadmap of the critical things to get true agent adoption. And we could spend the entire call on this one slide going through in great detail all of the aspects that ERA had as a commitment with ZAP to get this thing launched. Just the agile process is a fascinating process to see it work. I'd like to know from each one of you as we kind of wind the call down what you think is coming up next. Jake, what's next? I mean, what's next on the horizon? You've got so much going on right now.
Yeah, you know, VERL, we're continuing to roll out the product, you know, to the entire kind of family of brands that we're working with. But we're also really focused on helping at the broker level and at the agent level solve, you know, this problem that I think is pretty prevalent, you know, in the industry, which is you have brokers that are trying to piece together 5, 10, 15 different pieces of technology to power their entire brokerage operations. And we're looking at developing a product that's part of ZAP, called the ZAP Store, that will allow for all of the different products that a brokerage may use, including ZAP, to be interconnected with ZAP so that there's a single point of entry, there's a single point of data, so that all of that works together. You know, real estate brokers should not be spending their time being, you know, researching and trying to integrate different real estate technology packages. They should be focusing on servicing their buyers and sellers and managing their brokerage. And so what we're looking to do is really help by centralizing that onto a single platform for all of the ZAP users and allowing them to make the decisions about which technology they want to plug in. You know, it's a really fragmented and disconnected space right now. Takes a lot of time and effort, and it's not really standardized. And what we're looking for is a solution to that. And so ZAP's, you know, platform, and the idea is that we will go out and partner with many different third-party vendors in the real estate space and beyond, and let them plug into the ZAP platform once, and then offer to all the brokers and agents to kind of turn on or enable any of the different pieces of technology that they want to use for their brokerage. And, you know, the store is there to create options for them so that they can really customize the experience. It comes back to that personalize the experience, but not only on an individual level, but on a brokerage operation. I mean, there are as many ways to operate your brokerage, everything from marketing to transactions to how you pay your agents, as there are brokerages. And so we need to allow that. ZAP, it's the core platform, is really great at working with consumers, but there's much more to that involved in the real estate operations, and we really want to be able to facilitate and empower brokers and agents to take full advantage of that and all the different technologies that are out there. So that's what we have on the roadmap right now, is working on that project.
Is it fun for you, Jake, to kind of see the agents beginning to use it and see results that they're getting? I got to share this with you. Dennis Rath, who's got to be an ERA broker somewhere, posted this on the question board. He said, we've integrated Facebook ads into our lead router, into our ZAP page, and to our agent phones. The results, 65 leads in the last 10 days at an average cost of less than $1 a lead. ZAP is a great product. How does that make you feel? Yeah, no, we, you know, getting back and hearing the success stories is you know, is awesome. It's one of the things I really look forward to. And you know, there are agents and brokers using the product in ways we haven't even thought of. You know, we create features, and, you know, this space is full of really creative, dynamic, motivated professionals that will take this product, and as long as you provide enough flexibility within that space to allow them to really explore different ways to use it and engage with it at different levels and in different ways, that's really how you get that strong adoption. But you know, I love hearing that great feedback. Yeah, I do too. So Wayne, you got a lot going on. When you're done being a road warrior, what's next for you?
Well, we're scheduled out through at least November, so we're going to continue to focus on just increasing agent engagement with ZAP, whether it's through our Zap Squad, which is live in session in the office, or we have Zap Connect events, which are regional events that are set up where agents and brokers can, come in for a day and learn about Zap and still have that, one-on-one time. So, I mean, we're looking to continue to drive agent productivity and using Zap. That's what I'm going to be doing in still selling, but we're going to continue pushing and showing Zap's advantages to our agents. So
I think agile is the word that best describes what you have to be in your business, right?
Yeah, absolutely, and I absolutely love it. So.
Mobile and agile. So Chris, kind of bring it full circle and tell us what's happening next. What's on the roadmap for you?
Well, I'm going to go off script a little bit, and I will say that, beyond our evolving technology solutions and the product roadmap that Jake spoke about, we're also focused on business planning and making sure that our companies and our agents have solid business plans and a business continuity plan. Some of our key initiatives that we're focused on strategically include leadership development and succession planning. But really back to the topic of the day and on the technology horizon, as we look ahead, the team here working hand in hand with the Zip team out in California, I think Jake alluded to it, but we're really focused on finding solutions to problems that people really don't even know exist yet. They're just trying to stay out in front of that technology curve and finding better ways to connect with this next generation of consumers.
Chris, when you're talking about business planning and making sure everybody's prepared, can I ask you just personally, how far out are you planning? Are you looking at July or are you looking at July 2017? How far out do you plan?
In business planning?
Yeah.
From a business planning perspective, we go through an annual planning cycle. We have a team of service consultants that work, one-on-one with our brokers and our agents on the importance of, creating a solid plan to help them grow and scale their business. But succession planning, of course, is a much longer process for us. This is looking out several years and planning for effective business continuity as brokers in a retirement age and they want to transition out of the business. So, at the near term, we're looking at business planning within a 12 to 18 month cycle and succession planning within a several year out cycle.
Well, that's not short term. That's really looking out in advance, and I think that's part of why you're having the success you're having, is because of your long-term focus. You're looking way ahead, and then you're putting in the processes and the technology and the people and the adoption strategy to make those plans actually happen. A couple of quick questions, if I can, while I've got you all here for a minute, is one of the questions I have that's come from the user group is when you put the forum up there, and you allow your agents to get in and interact with each other as users, is there any fear of, it doesn't work and people bad-mouthing the product or talking negative about their experience, and how do you deal with that?
Hey Jake, I'll take it from a brand perspective, then you can take it from a technology perspective. I will tell you, one of the key trends that we identified early on was that transparency is key because it creates trust, and it creates trust not just with the consumer and the agent, but it also creates trust between us. We want to hear it, good, bad, or indifferent, because that feedback helps us formulate and do further product development. So really no fear going out. I can say that from a brand perspective, and bro, to be honest with you, we heard it all.
Jake, I'd love your thoughts on that as well.
Yeah, I just 100% support what Chris just said. From a product development, looking at the agile methodology which we use, a core tenet of that is putting a product in the hands of the end user and then watching and listening to what they have to say about it and using that feedback to drive the next development cycle, so that you're constantly developing, putting it in the hands, listening, getting the feedback, researching its usage, and then using that to really drive the next cycle and trying to tighten up and drive as many of those cycles as possible so that your product is really, really heavily influenced by the users, right? it's really, really tough to create a product for consumers or agents if you're not listening to what they need and what they want. And so feedback, good, bad, and different, we want it all. We really want to understand. And typically we look at a frustrated agent that's having issues with the product is really as an opportunity for us to dive deeper and have a better understanding of what their experience has been, what the pain points will be, and to really have a deep understanding of that. I mean, it may be something we want to solve for, it may not, but any knowledge will add to the collective knowledge that we have that will, continue to allow us to drive forward better and more innovative products.
You just said something I think is just a fantastic way to end the webinar, and that is we don't have problems. We look at issues as opportunities to find out what the real experience is so we can decide whether or not we're going to jump in and fix it. Every problem or every negative interaction is just an opportunity to show how good we are. And I love that attitude in development. I love it in adoption, and it goes to the core and the kind of the culture that you guys have created through this adoption strategy. I want to thank everybody for being here. You can go to workmansuccess.com/adopt, and you can download a copy of the presentation with the checklist of how to get greater adoption. There's also a phenomenal video on the how the consumer thinks and behaves today that is worth the download. I think everybody should go there and get that. I want to thank our guests, Wayne and Jake and Chris. We especially thank all of your efforts in not only rolling out a great technology, because I think you've really put your agents and their interaction with the consumer at the forefront, but sharing those with everybody else, because I believe you get by giving, and you gave us a lot of information today, and I know the rewards will be huge for you. So thank you very much for being here.
Great.
Thank you, VERL. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
You betcha. On behalf of RISMedia and Workman Success Systems, thanks for being here, everybody. We'll talk to you all soon on the next broker webinar series.